Now we're on Daf Yud Omid Beis. Avdus ani nosim lechem. You think that Srara, by being the leader, it's like a breeze. All you get is covered and you get money, you get a high salary. No, no, no. What I'm asking you used to be an Eved. Shenemar vayidabru elov Pasukim Malachim lemar im hayom tia Eved lamazeh. So the pasuk indicates that whoever would take over the Malchus is going to be an Eved. He's a servant to the people. Tana Rabbanim learned to the Brayso Asher Nosi Yechta. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. So let me ask you a question. Just give me a knee-jerk reaction. Is it a good thing that the Nasi sins, or is it a bad thing? Yeah, right? Says Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, it's a good thing. The Herstamais, it's a good thing. We should applaud how lucky we are that the king sins. Ashrei Ador Shanasi Shalom Mevi Korban Al Shigoso. If the Nasi sins inadvertently, he's going to bring his own unique korban publicly. And that's a great act of modesty that even the king himself will have to bring a korban chatos to atone for his sin. Is tzorach atolomer mao hejot. What's going to be with the commoner? They'll see, look at this anova, look at this humility and honesty and dedication. I for sure will be there to bring my korban if need be. Maybe korban and they can understand how severe the violation of the Torah is. That if for a shogeg the nasi himself has to get off his high horse and bring a korban, how much more so is the Torah strict about a mazid? Maskifle rava berei de rabba elameyato. If what you say is that whenever it says asher, right? Asher nasi chechta means ashrei, fortunate. I'm sorry, my buddy. You cannot be consistent with that definition of asher because the ksiv ve'es asher chotem in hakodesh yishalem. Here the word asher appears in terms of someone who violated me'ilah. Now he has to make a payment as a penalty for violating consecrated property. He was a choti umachti asher chotav asher hechti. So again, the word asher. So we're going to say ashrei. How fortunate are the Jewish people that Yerav ben Avad was a sinner who caused others to sin. So the Gemara answers shani hacha the shani kra b'dibure. The word asher here in the pasuk nasi asher nasi yechta is out of place because there's a change in the expression. In 3 psukim around this, it says im and not asher. All of a sudden, the Torah switches it around and says asher. This reminds me of the Rashi on the Aseres HaDibros in Parshas Yisro Perek Chof. Rashi says all of a sudden the name of God appears as Yud Kei Vav Kei. Until then it was, no, I'm sorry, the other way around. Till then in Perek Yutes it always appears as Yud Kei Vav Kei, and here it says Vayidaber Elokim. It's called Dvar Ve'Leimar. So Rashi wants to know why the switch from Yud Kei Vav Kei to Elokim. I mean, there are probably millions of examples. Dorish Rav Nachman Yismai Dechsiv. What does Shlomo HaMelech mean in Koheles when he says Yesh Hevel Asher Nas Ala Oretz? And again, the word asher, and we're talking about vanities and futilities that take place on the earth. And the next part of the pasuk indicates that righteous men are treated in this world like the wicked men. And wicked men are treated in this world like the righteous men. Ever. Ashreim l'tzadikim shemagil lev k'maiser rishon shalom ha'babal mazeh. How fortunate are the tzaddikim that suffer in this world. Oy lehem l'rishon shemagia lehem k'maisa tzaddikim shalom haba b'olam hazeh. And it's terrible for the Rishonim when they experience all the, the great lot that is dedicated for the righteous in the next world, and they live lives of indulgence, enjoying this world. They'll get nothing in the world to come. Omar Rav, I don't get it. You're telling me that the tzaddik is fortunate because he lives like the suffering of the wicked in this world? Otu tzaddikei ochli trei almi misoni? Is it a terrible thing for the tzaddikim to enjoy both worlds? Can't they enjoy this world and the next world at the same time? Ela Omar Rav, I can't accept what you're saying. Ashreim l'tzaddikim shemagia lehem k'maiser rishonim shel olam hazeh b'olam hazeh, meaning that just like the rishonim are getting paid up with all the benefits of this world in this world, so that they have no claim in olam haba, so too the righteous will experience all those goodnesses, all that multitude of benefits that are experienced by the Rishonim in this world. Olam l'Rishonim, on the other hand, woe to the wicked. Shemagia lehem k'maisat tzadikim shel olam hazeh ba'olam hazeh. In other words, they're treated in this world like the lot of the tzaddikim in this world, meaning just like God bestows shefa and bracha to the tzaddikim in this world, so for the Rishonim that's a terrible thing, but for the tzaddikim it's great. Apparently they were poor. So Rava asks them, Amalahu, O Kimtun Masechta Plan or Masechta Plan, have you mastered this Masechta or that Masechta? Amalahem in, yes. Iatari Supruta, do you have some money? Amalahem in. We somehow were able to get a small amount of money. We have a small plot of land which we sold, and it provided us with profit that we used to get whatever we need. Kari Alayhu, when Rava heard that Baruch Hashem, these two great scholars who mastered this Masechta, that Masechta, yet they were able to sell out a plot of land that provided for them. I'm sorry. I said sell. The Zavnon means to buy. Like the Zav and Abba Bitrei Zuzah, right? Kori Alayim, so Rava quoted the Pasuk, Ashreim l'tzadikim shemagia lehem k'maiser rishon b'olam hazeh, sheb'olam hazeh, b'olam hazeh. So fortunate are those who are treated in this world, the righteous people, that they're given the lot of the Rishonim of this world, which is a great lot with a lot of benefits and bounty, and they were granted that in this world. So the Rav Papa and Rav Huna could enjoy both worlds, this world and the next. There's one derech, one path, and yet some will enjoy the benefit of it, and some will stumble in it. Question is, what was your intention? Did you have the right, pure intentions when you did a mitzvah? They roasted the Pesach. One ate it l'shem shamayim. You know what? It's a great steak over here. This one we could describe the tzaddik as tzaddikim yelchuba. Now, poshim yikashluba is a very negative description that transgressors, etc. But what do you mean transgressors? I mean, okay, so he ate it gluttonously and for the sake of pleasure. Amalei Reish Lakish Rasha Karasle. You're telling him that he's Rishayim Yikashluba? I grant you that he hasn't done the mitzvah in a perfect way. Pesach Milo Koachim, at the end of the day, he did the Maisa mitzvah, the Achilas HaPesach. How can you call him a Rasha? What was he guilty of? Ella Mashal Shnei Bnei Adam. Okay, now let me just think for a moment. What is the purpose of this mashal? Just one second. Let's go through it because offhand, I'm not sure exactly what this mashal is trying to establish. So you have two men. So they're living in two houses, these two men. Each one is living in the house with his wife and his sister. Not a good setup. Echad is damilo ishto. One in the middle of the night got lucky, so to speak, through Ashkochas Hashem, and he had relations with his wife. The echad is damilo chosa. The other one in the middle of the night had a relationship with his sister. Possession is tablo isha tzadikim yelchu ba. Possession is tablo achosa poshim yikashu ba. So Hashem provides a special protection for the righteous, so they shouldn't sin b'shogeg. So the first man encountered his wife because God knew that his intentions were pure. The second man had a relationship with his sister because in the recesses of his heart, he nurtured impure desire. And consequently, God brought him this opportunity to stumble. So the Gemara doesn't like it. Me dummy. Like this mashal is not, really doesn't fit into the pasuk. Hanan kamin echad derech. The pasuk was telling you that if you go, two people, a Rosh and a Tzaddik, walk on the same road, then this one will stumble and this one will walk straight. These are two different roads and two different approaches, two different acts. You can't compare, an Erev action with a sister to a beer with one's wife. I'll give you a better analogy. Heim niskavnu l'shem shomayim tzadikim yelchuba. Hu niskavnu l'shem aver poshim yikoshuba. Now, Lot was seduced by his two daughters, one after the other. And he is called poshim yikoshuba. Why? How do you know that he didn't have in mind for a mitzvah? In fact, he was dead drunk. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, when Lot separates himself from Avram, there's an entire long, complicated pasuk that describes how Lot and why Lot decided that he wants to settle in Sodom. And Hashem, everything in that pasuk is referring to licentious behavior. Vayisa Lot, the pasuk Vayisa Lot is certainly referring to sexual involvement, because it says, with regard to Eshes Potifar, Vatisa Eshes Adonov Eseinel. Again, that word Vatisa. Eseinov, Lot raises his eyes. Vayomer. Let's take a pasuk by Shimshon who desires that woman, right? Also kachliki yishar beinai. Take her for a wife, because she's very attractive in my eye. Again, it's a reference to Delilah in Breslov. They don't say that word. They never say that word. Anyway. Vayar, he saw the beauty of stone. Vayar also Shem ben Chamar, and Shem also saw. Who did he see? He saw Dinah, and he wanted to have a relationship with Dinah. And then Lot says it's called Kikar Yarden, the entire plain of the Jordan. Ki ad isha zona ad Kikar Lochem. Shlomo Melech says in Mishlei that a man is so dedicated to having relationships with a harlot that he ends up that he can't even afford a loaf of bread. He spends all his money on prostitution. Kikula mashka, and that Lot sees that the entire area is full of water and wells. And here we have a pasuk in Hosea, and there the pasuk says, Elcha acharai, achrei ma'avai, etc., etc. Anyway, we see clearly that this is a desire. What do you mean desire? For it's nice. He was dead drunk. So here the Gemara is going to differentiate between the first night and the second night. First night with one daughter of Lot, and the second night with Tanav Yishum Rabbi Yossi says, Lama nakad al vav shebekuma shel bechira. Right after the older girl got up, and the pasuk says ubikuma. and there's a nakuda on top of the vav. Even though he had no idea what happened when she slept with him, but aval bekuma yada. That's the vav of the nakuda on top of the vav. So he was aware of the fact, and this is before the second night, that she had slept with him. So Gemara says, "Umay havile meva." What do you want? They gave him wine to drink a second night. He was drunk the second night. My have have. And the Gemara says, "Nafkamina de lafanya achrino lo iboy lemishta." He shouldn't have even agreed to drink on the second night. He should have already suspected what's going to happen with his younger daughter. Dorish Rabba, my dechsiv ach nifsha mikiryas oz umidonim kibriach armon. Okay, so we have a pasuk now in Mishlei, and the pasuk says a brother in rebellion from a strong city that's called Kiryas Oz creates midonim. Midonim of battles or friction that are like the bolt of castle gates. Ach nifsha mikiryas azelot shapirish mi Avram. What happens when Lot separates from Avram? Midonim kibriach armon. He's going to create all this friction and all this tension. Shehetil midonim ben Yisrael amon. Shenever lo yovi avoni v'avi yakal Shem. From that relationship with his two daughters is going to come Ammon, and Ammon is going to create such problems for Klal Yisrael. Maybe it means Ammon and Moab that hired Bilam to curse. Anyway, that the Torah is going to exclude them completely from, even after Gerus, from entering into Klal Yisrael. And all this is a result of the fact that Lot left his uncle Avram, and he was interested in the allurement of Sdom. What does it mean when it says in a pasuk in Mishlei, "L'savi yavakish nifrad b'kol toshiz gale," he who seeks to isolate himself in order to satiate his lust, he will be exposed to all bodies of wisdom. What does that mean? L'taiva yavakish nifrad zelot shenifrad mi Avram. Who seeks to isolate himself in order to satiate his lust? That's a reference to Lot, who isolated himself from Avram in order to satisfy his sinful desires. Bechol tushi is gala, he'll be exposed to all bodies of wisdom. What does that mean? That's a paradox. Shen is gala klono b'patik nesis batim josh. So in the shuls, they're going to read the parsha of drunken Lot having a relationship with his two daughters. That's a Bate Knessis. A Bate Midrashos, they're going to learn a Mishnah in Yevamos. What does it say in that Mishnah? Tisnan Amonim Ovi Asurim Iser Olam. And this is a result of Lot's involvement. So basically, the wisdom here is the wisdom of the Bate Knesios and the Bate Midrash. Me'omer Ula Tamar Zin, so v'zimri zina, and yet Tamar Zin, so yatzim mena malachim u'neviim. Malachim means David Avelech, and Neviim is a reference to, I believe, Amatzia. Just 1 second, no. Oh, to Yeshaya. Zimri Zina, Nafal Kamer Vavas, we saw 24,000 Jews lost their lives because of Zimri's illicit relations. Omar Nachbar Yitzchak Gadol Aver Lishma Mitzvah Shelo Lishma Shenemar Tevorach Minoshim Yoel Eishes Chavar Akini Minoshim Bol Tvorach. She had relationships with him 7 times in order to destroy him, meaning Sisera. And even though she was a married woman, nevertheless it's Aver Lishma, which the Gemara interprets to mean that it is greater than a mitzvah shalol lishma, implying that a mitzvah shalol lishma is not the right way to go. My new What does it mean in the pasuk? Noshim ba'oel tevorach. My ninu noshim ba'oel sar Rivka rachav Leah. Anyway, we see that the sin that was implemented by Yael was done l'shem shamayim, and therefore she gets the brachos of the four imahos. So Gemara says, Eini, why are you putting down someone who is shalol lishma? V'amar Rabbi Yehuda Marav, lo lishma is a very good starting point. The olam yasek odem b'torah mitzvahs afil shalol lishma shebitol shalol lishma b'ol lishma. It's just a stepping stone to get to Torah lishma. So there is merit to performing a mitzvah for ulterior motives. The Rambam is marich on this in his Pirush HaMishnayos. Ema ke mitzvah shalol lishma. In other words, there is a positive element and a kiyum to a mitzvah shalol lishma, and her involvement in an avera lishma is equal to that level of an avera shalol lishma. I was always taught that it's a greater level, but the Gemara's maskana seems to be against whatever I thought. Amar Rabbi Yochanan sheva b'ilos ba'alos Rosh Hashanah shah shenema bein raglei kava kara nafal shachav. There are 7 words that he used to describe how he ended up between her legs and he bent and he fell and he lay and everything else, indicating that there were 7 be'ilos v'hakam san v'aver. Why do you call it? She's so great that she had an aver lishma. What do you mean? She benefited from it, and the Michtav Melio is very famous to say that aver lishma is only meaningful if you don't get any benefit from it. Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Yeshua afilu tovasan shel rishoyim ro'i eitzat tzadikim. Anything good, so to speak, that you get from the wicked is really bad. And Sisro apparently polluted her, whatever that means. And anyway, her benefit was not considered a benefit. Her intent was surely purely l'shem shamayim. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Rav Liolam Yasek on the B'torah v'mitzvahs afil shalol lishma shemitok shalol lishma b'ol lishma shevischar arboim ushnayim karbona shehikri bolaka rasha. For the sake of his rishus, in order to get Bilam to curse the Jewish people, brought no less than 42 sacrifices. And yet Zacha v'yatzam and Rus is the great-great-great-granddaughter of Balak. And how do we know this? The Omar of Yossi Reb Chanina, Rus bas bino shel Eglon. So Rus is the granddaughter of Eglon. Eglon was the Melech of Moab, who is ben bino shel Balak Melech Moab. So if you count 6 generations, Rus comes from Balak. And why? Because Balak brought these 42 Karbana Shalol Lishma. Amar Rab Chia, with this we'll conclude. Amar Rab Yochanan, how do we know that God does not withhold reward even for refined speech? Right, the older girl had a child from her father, from Lot, and called him Moav. Now, Moav is a word that recalls the relationship that she had with her father. Moav, from the word father. May Avi. Moav is May Avi. Amalei Rachmana Lemoshe, Hashem says, with regard to Klal Yisrael, Hashem says with regard to the descendants of Moav, Al Totzer es Moav al Tizgara bam milchama. Right, don't besiege Moav or contend with them in battle. Milchama hu delo. You don't wage war against Moav. Ha tziri tzayra. You could harass them and cause them pain. Ve'ilu tzira de karya ben ami, the son of my people, Ammon. That's more of a delicate name, right? She doesn't proclaim publicly that he's an illegitimate son. God says to Moshe, do not besiege them nor contend with them at all. So in contention with Ammon, that's battle. Just one second. right? With Ammon, that's the second daughter. It doesn't say that you can't battle with them. It says that you can't even titsurem. Titsure means to besiege them. Vel tizgarabah means to contend with them. Afilu tzure lo. And this is a reward for the refined speech of the second daughter of Lot. Here we are in Daf Yud Al. Mitzvah Hashem, tomorrow we could continue